Hello and welcome to the Montana International Film Festival. My name is Greg Hamilton, and we are here with director Tsanavi Spoonhunter to talk about her film Crow Country, Our Right to Food Sovereignty. Before we get going, I'd like to offer a special thanks to Tito's Handmade Vodka for their sponsorship. All right. Now, just for my peace of mind, can you say your name for me again? I just don't want to kill it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Greg, for the introduction. My name is Tsanavi Spoonhunter. It's pronounced without the T. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So this film, please tell me a little bit about how you came to the subject, how you found it as a documentary subject.
Yeah, originally I was following the Herrera versus Wyoming case, and that case involves one Crow tribal member who hunted in the state of Wyoming and outside of the reservation, and he was cited by the Game Wardens of Wyoming. And so he fought the citation, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And in 2019, the Supreme Court ruled in his favor. And so I thought that this was a really interesting court case, in the fact that it was significant enough to reach the Supreme Court. I wanted to pursue the story with him and highlight him mostly in the film. That was my original intention. And once I reached out to him, he was on board. And then I went to Crow for the first time. I've never been to Montana. This is my first time going to the state. And so once I went to Crow and did a little bit of scouting and, principal photography, well, not principal photography, but just scouting areas, I learned that the food situation is so much more because most tribes live in a food desert. And with the Crow, they're only grocery store burnt down in 2019 as well. And so a lot of tribal members were struggling to, have access to food and close proximity to their reservation. And that was one of the reasons why Herrera went and shot bull elk outside of the reservation, because he had, he wanted to feed his 3 daughters and he didn't want to go on any type of government assisted food systems. And so, yeah, it was just really interesting. And I met some other really people who, are really imperative to the film and to make it happen. And so, yeah, that's how I learned about it.
So what was the time frame that you made the film, and how long did you spend working on it?
Yeah, so I spent basically a year on it. I did a lot of research about the Herrera case during the summer. It's actually my documentary thesis film. I went and studied at UC Berkeley in California under the Graduate School of Journalism, and there they have a really good documentary filmmaking program. And so the last year is dedicated to our thesis films. And so that's what I did. I did a lot of research in the summer into the fall, and then I did most of my principal photography in the beginning of the year. In the beginning of the spring, and did intense editing after that.
Tell me a little bit about how you establish trust with your subjects.
I think one thing that's important is to just basically be clear that you're there for this story and you want to tell it in, the most truthful way possible. A lot of times I feel like, people, when they get told their story, it's a little, just different for them. And so I knew going into the community that I wanted to make a really good film, but to make it clear, I am a journalist and a filmmaker. I'm here to do this piece. And I think it's important to kind of showcase what you guys do in the film and just how important this topic is. And so I think it's really clear to kind of draw some boundaries in the beginning with, your work first. And then whatever happens, happens following that.
Well, so you said that this originally started with a hunter, mm-hmm. and trying to provide food for his family. How did you find the other subjects, the elder and the journalist?
Yeah, so the other subjects, I reached out to the elder because I Well, actually, I learned about the case. I got a hold of Clavin, and some of my advisors back at Berkeley, they were like, well, since that happened in the past, what are we going to see happen, like unfold in front of the camera? And so they really gave me a push to do even more reporting. And so I reached out to Luella Bryn, who's the Bighorn County News editor, general manager, reporter. She does it all. And so I reached out to her to gather a little bit more background and information. And she just kind of confirmed all, like, everything that, I've been talking about, like food deserts and not having it. And even like border towns, essentially towns that are on the border of, reservations, even those grocery stores, the prices are much higher than other places that you see. And so she put me into touch with Peggy, the elder, Peggy White, well-known Buffalo, who has the Center Pole, which is a nonprofit that brings recovery foods from Billings, which I believe is like an hour and a half around there from the Crow Reservation most mornings, and back to Crow to kind of give out this food to the community before it goes to waste. And so, and Luella originally, the reporter, she originally wasn't going to be in the film, but I forget what had happened, but I was like, yeah, I think I wanted to pursue her story a little bit more. And she was just like really captivating the way she talks, and she's just very eloquent with her speech. And I thought that she would make like a phenomenal addition to the film, which she did.
Mm. How do you see the circumstance changing on the Crow Reservation? Is it much the same as when you left it, or is there a possibility for expansion of food availability? Has anything changed?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't believe much has changed. Like in the film, the original owners of the Crow Mercantile, the only grocery store on the reservation, they weren't planning to rebuild, and that still rings true today. They're not planning to rebuild, and so I mean, Peggy works like crazy hours every day. She's always out, like on the ground, like, giving people foods and things like that. And even the family, the Yellow Meal family, I believe that they still go to Peggy's every, couple times a week. And so I don't think much has changed on the reservation, unfortunately. And hopefully that does change in the future. Yeah, so just bringing more awareness. So it's important.
What was the biggest challenge that you faced during the production of your documentary?
Oh, the weather. The Montana weather is just it's really, it's like, it's beautiful. I love Montana, the landscape, like the mountains, everything's just like so rich in just color. But yeah, one thing was definitely the weather. We had scheduled a couple hunts that were canceled because of storms that happened, seemed like overnight. And so we had to cancel those. And, coming from California and bringing all the equipment, it was really difficult because, I was like kind of banking on certain scenes, in the film, and then going there, and then unfortunately it's not possible given Mother Nature, which in the end, it worked out good. But yeah, that was probably the biggest obstacle, which is uncontrollable.
Yeah, most definitely. So you said this was part of your senior thesis, correct? Piece. Having finished this film, how do you feel it is going to make an impact, and where are you putting it out to so that more people can see it?
Yeah, so with this film, I think the number one goal of the film is just to bring awareness to the issue. And this issue is, I highlight the Crow tribe, but this is like 60% of tribes across the country live in a food desert. And so that amounts to about like 340 tribes who struggle with like access to, basic human right, which is food. And what makes Crow really interesting is, the treaty right that they kind of set the basis of the court case around, which gives tribal members access to their traditional home spaces to be able to, get elk. And a lot of these tribes rely on elk. I mean, it's not only just for protein and food, but, they also decorate their traditional attire in it. And so a lot of the elk is like you know, it's just like a staple in their culture in so many ways. And I think that it's really beautiful. And the fact that so many Crow people, like in the film, I really wanted to show that too, is that, you know, they have their culture, they have their heritage, they have their language still, you know? And so there's like parts, you know, in the food distribution scenes where Peggy's like talking to people in Crow. And, you know, that's something that like these big tribes, like in Montana and in, you know, like Wyoming, they still have their language. And, you know, unfortunately, that's not true for a lot of tribes across the country. And so I think that was something really special. And I just want to, you know, kind of bring contemporary issues to the forefront of film, because a lot of times, you know, a lot of Native people, they're romanticized and you don't really see like, you know, the current conditions that, you know, they're surviving in. And it's just, I think it like, I think I said in my synopsis, you know, just to show how resilient they are and how beautiful the culture continues to be. And I think that that's something that I want to highlight and showcase. And I hope it brings more awareness, like I said, the food, and just like with policy change too, especially in Crow. Hopefully they do some stuff within the tribal government as well as, you know, the state and federal governments.
So as a journalist, oftentimes when you're working with a subject, you maintain contact with them after the fact. What has that been like? Have you maintained contact after the documentary was done? Is there anything else that you'd like to add about those particular stories that you told within the film through your contact afterwards?
Yeah, so one thing that for myself has been really important is just to keep everybody informed of like what kind of progression the film is making and kind of what steps I'm doing to promote it. And so that's something that's been important for me, is to continue to keep contact with them, make sure like, you know, they're doing okay, and just inform them of, you know, Mint when I first got selected. And, you know, Luella actually, yeah, Luella was like, oh my gosh, she sent me, you know, some material on that. And so that was exciting. And, you know, just like being able to keep them in the loop about the film. And so, you know, where it's screening, what I'm doing on Facebook and all the different social medias. I just, you know, started the website and the social media accounts. They're all at Crow Country Documentary, or Doc, Crow Country Doc. You can find them on the website and on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And so I've just been trying to keep them informed. And like I said, with Peggy, especially because she works with a nonprofit organization, I do want to kind of highlight her work too throughout like social media and things like that.
Hmm. All right, we have time for one more question. As a filmmaker, I would like you to tell me what lessons, and it doesn't have to be a bunch, but what lessons did you learn from making this film? What did you come away with that you would apply to your next film?
I think just like I said, just being as clear as possible with like your intentions of the film, and just even more clear of like the landscape of filmmaking, especially in documentary. It's just such a different, you know, like I'm like, you know, I'm still in debt over the film. And the one main thing is more of like being able to like help these people, like help people's voices and situations be, you know, showcased, you know, and have them be able to just tell their stories. And, you know, a lot of times for documentary film, what I'm learning, especially for myself, is that, you know, it's about the issues. It's not about like trying to make a bunch of like capital off of it, right? And so that's just something that like I think needs to be clear, and that's something I'm still learning, you know. I mean, I'm like a little, I always say I'm a little baby filmmaker, you know, going out into the world, because I'm still learning everything, you know, every step of the way. But yeah, just to be clear and over prepare every time you go to a shoot. Make sure you have like all, you know, all of your gear and equipment and everything checked off, and that, you know, you're able to like work with whoever your crew is like in sync, so you're not like jumping in shots. You know, there were so many times where I was like, you know, in a shot like messing around with like the mixer for the audio, and I'm just like, oh my god. So there's just, you know, certain things I'm learning and still learning. But yeah.
Yeah, it is a learning process, and you're always learning. Thank you so much, Tsanavi, for sharing your film. And I know that the folks that are watching this right now, they've seen your film and they've enjoyed it. Please, check in at those spots that you were talking about for more information. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I mean, thank you, Mint, for the official selection, and these are crazy times, virtual screenings and whatnot. So I'm excited to be a part of it.